Good day. Today, we'll be talking about the human reproductive system. And the ability to reproduce, as we all know, is one of the unifying characteristics of um, all living things. And so today, we'll just be looking at some of the structures of the male and the female reproductive system. But by way of introduction, it's important to state that reproduction in man is viviparous. And what this means is that human reproduction employs internal fertilization that results in giving birth to living young ones. That is, the living young ones that develop from fertilized eggs. And so this process depends on the combined actions and activities of hormones, the nervous system, and the reproductive system itself. Gonads are sex organs that produce gametes. So the male gonads are the testes, and the testes produce sperm and the male sex hormones, the androgens, most important of which is the testosterone. Then the female gonads are ovaries, which produce eggs and female sex hormones, such as the estrogen and the progesterone. So in sexual reproduction, new ones are produced by the fusion of male and female gametes to form zygote. And the process of prenatal development continues till the point of maturation when the baby is born. So sexual reproduction offers the benefits of generating genetic variations among offsprings, which enhances the chances of the population's survival. The cost of this process are courtship rituals, because you must meet someone that is mutually interested in you and mutually interested in mating to get the process started. Other basic biological processes and mechanisms are also involved, in reproduction. So let's quickly go on into the looking at the male reproductive system. So looking at this diagram, we'll start by looking at the sac. This sac, that's the scrotum. The scrotum is located outside of the body. And so this scrotum contains the testes. There are two testes. And so this is one testis. The other is at the other side of the scrotum. So the scrotum contains the testis, and the testis produces sperms. Sperms are, we've said earlier, are part of the male gonads. So the testis produces sperms, and the scrotum is located outside of the body because the sperm cannot survive the normal body temperature. It would be destroyed. And so the scrotum is located outside of the body, where the temperature is about 2 degrees or 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit lower than what obtains within the abdominal cavity. Now, from the scrotum, the sperm is transferred into the epidermis. This is the epidermis. The sperm is transferred into the epidermis, as it is in this epidermis that the sperm would be until maturation. That's where the final maturation takes place. Now, when a man ejaculates, the sperm moves from the epidermis into the vas deferens. And so this is where the epidermis and the vas deferens meet. And so the sperm is forced, out of the epidermis and pushed up into the vas deferens. And that's the vas deferens tube. It's pushed up into the vas deferens. Now, not shown in this diagram are the ejaculatory ducts. The ejaculatory ducts are found at the end of the vas deferens, and they are located behind the bladder and slightly under it. They are located behind the bladder and start slightly under it. Something else we will find behind the bladder are the seminal vesicles. And the seminal vesicles, they empty their contents directly into the vas deferens. So the seminal vesicle empties its contents directly into the ejaculatory duct. So that's where the seminal vesicle empties its content. And the contents of the excretion of the seminal vesicle is 60% of the total volume of semen. 60% of the total volume of semen. And the semen, it comprises of the sperm and other associated fluids, such as the fructose, that is the main energy source for the sperm. And also part of the content of this excretion is the prostaglandins. The prostaglandins stimulate the female uterine contraction to move the semen up into the uterus as it travels to fertilize the eggs. There are also mucus and amino acids that could be found within the semen. Now, the ejaculatory duct itself now empties into the urethra. And so we've said that from the epidermis, the sperm is pushed up into the urethra. And I mean, from the epidermis, the sperm is pushed up into the vas deferens. In the vas deferens, it moves down to the end of the vas deferens where we have the ejaculatory duct. Attached also to the ejaculatory duct is the seminal vesicle that also empties its contents, its secretions into the ejaculatory duct. And we say that the content is 60% of semen, the total volume of semen is secreted from this seminal vesicle. And now everything in the ejaculatory duct is now emptied into the urethra. Now the urethra is also what's also the contents of the bladder. Here is the bladder. So the contents of the bladder, this is the urethra. This is where the epidermis joins the urethra. So both the contents from the bladder and the contents from the vas deferens is emptied into the urethra. So content of the vas deferens, content of the bladder is emptied. Of course, for that part of the vas deferens, the contents pass in through the ejaculatory duct and everything empties into the urethra. So for men, it is the urethra, the seminal content, seminal fluids pass through the urethra, and urine also passes through the urethra. So the initial segment of the urethra is surrounded by the prostate gland. This is the urethra, like we said earlier. Now, this is the prostate gland. And so at the initial segment of the urethra, we find the prostate gland sort of encasing the urethra. And it is this prostate gland that secretes alkaline, its secretions are alkaline in nature. So it secretes its alkaline substances or fluids, secretes alkaline fluids into the urethra. And the essence is to neutralize whatever urinary content may still be in the urethra. Now, the urines are acidic in nature. And so the secretions of the prostate gland neutralizes that urine, because we know that the sperm also will not survive in an acidic environment. So the prostate gland secretes its alkaline fluids into the urethra. And the alkaline secretions also helps to neutralize the acidic environment in the woman's vagina. So that's the role of the prostate gland and its excretion. Now, the prostate needs a lot of zinc to function properly. And so a deficiency of dietary zinc, among other causes, can lead to prostate enlargement. And once the prostate is enlarged, it sort of constricts the urethra. It pushes it together, it tightens it up, and makes urination both difficult and painful. And so there's a lot of need to care for the prostate by eating well and perhaps also having regular screening. And we also have what is called the bulbourethral gland. The bulbourethral glands, they are located along the urethra below the prostate, and they secrete a very small amount of fluid just before the man ejaculates fully. So this bulbourethra secretes this minute amount of seminal fluid, and it is thought that this fluid is there to serve as a lubricant, for inserting the penis into the vagina. Not much is known about any other function of this particular gland, the bulbourethra. Then the urethra goes through the penis. That's the urethra. You see the tube goes through the penis. So it serves like, let's look at it, say, in terms of plumbing, the way the pipe passes from the tank, to other areas. So it's like, so that's how the urethra is conducting urine out of the penis, out of the body, also conducting seminal fluids, from the ejaculatory ducts out of the body. And so that's the role of the urethra. It helps in it serves as a kind of pipe that conducts or channels out urine and seminal fluids out of the body. So in humans, the penis contains 3 cylinders of spongy erectile tissues. 3 cylinders of spongy erectile tissues. Now, these cylinders comprise of the corpus spongiosum, comprised of the corpus spongiosum, as well as 2 corpus cavernosa. The singular is corpus cavernosum, but we have 2 corpus cavernosa, one on either side of the penis. So we have the 2 corpus cavernosa and the corpus spongiosum. And during sexual arousal, there are blood vessels in this corpus cavernosum and corpus spongiosum. So during ejaculation, find that these blood vessels are filled with blood from the arteries that supply them, and the pressure seals off the vein that drains this blood, from the arteries. And so because the blood is able to stay within the blood vessels supplied by this 3 erectile tissues, then the man is able to achieve erection. And erection is a necessity for insertion into the woman's vagina to take place. And so the head of the penis is also called the glans penis, is very, very sensitive. This is the head of the penis. It's very highly sensitive to stimulation. So the head of the penis is called the glans penis. And this area is highly sensitive to stimulation. And in humans, the glans is covered by the foreskin called the perus. There's a foreskin covering the glans, and that's the it's called the prepuce. The foreskin is called the prepuce, and for most men these days, you have the prepuce already removed, and so it's removed during circumcision, mostly more for cultural and religious reasons than for medical reasons. And however, males who have not been circumcised, are advised to keep the area clean. Why? Because of the folds, it's easy for bacteria and or yeast to grow in that area, on accumulated secretions. And so it's important that that area is kept clean as much as possible. Yeah, I think we've touched every area of the male reproductive system. And I'm sure now you can tell what each structure in the male reproductive system does. And so let's move on to the female reproductive system. Now, the female reproductive system, we'll start with looking at the vagina. So the vagina is located between the urethra and the anus. The vagina is located between the urethra and the anus. And the vagina is very, very elastic. It's a relatively thin-walled muscular tube lined with nerves and mucous membrane. So it's very elastic, even though it may look small, but it could expand. And the vagina connects the uterus and the cervix to the outside wall of the body. The vagina connects the uterus and the cervix to the outside of the body, thus allowing for menstruation, allowing for intercourse, and allowing for childbirth. Those are the basic functions of the vagina: menstruation, intercourse, and childbirth. Now in virgin, the openings of the vagina is usually covered partially by a membrane called the hymen. So the opening of the vagina is usually covered, by a membrane called the hymen. Now the hymen is usually broken during the first sexual intercourse. Also, maybe due to injury or vigorous physical activity, would also cause the hymen to be ruptured. Now the opening to the urethra and the vaginal opening within the vulvar vestibule, within the vulvar vestibule, that's an area. The vulvar vestibule is an area between the labia minora. Here is the labia minora in. And so the labia minora houses the vulvar vestibule, and that's where the opening to the urethra and the vagina, that's where their openings are. So they are covered, so these openings are covered by two sets of skin folds. So the thinner and the inner fold is the labia minora, and the thicker and the outer fold is called the labia majora. So we have the labia majora outside, and then we have the labia minora inside as the inner fold. Now the labia minora, that is the thin and the inner one, this thin and the inner one, contains the most sensitive point for female sexual stimulation. It contains the most sensitive point for female sexual stimulation, called the clitoris. The clitoris is the most sensitive point for a female sexual stimulation, and it's an erectile tissue. It's an erectile tissue that is similar to the penis. It's equivalent to the penis in male. And with sexual arousal, the glans clitoris, which is what we can actually see visibly, which is the visible part of the clitoris that we can see. The gland clitoris, as well as the labia minora, becomes engorged with blood and appears edematous, appears swollen. You know, that's so just like the male gets an erection, the woman also sort of gets an erection, even though it may not look as obvious as what you see, you know, in terms of the man having an erection. But there's blood flow into the clitoris and into the labia minora, and so it shows heightened sexual arousal. Now, the eggs are produced in the ovaries. Women have two ovaries. So this is an ovary, this is another ovary. So eggs are produced in the ovaries, but these are not true eggs yet, and will never complete meiosis and become true eggs unless they are fertilized by sperm. So it is the fertilization of the egg that actually makes it a true egg, because that is the only time it can transform into a child or transform into a baby. So unless this fertilization is done, then meiosis cannot be completed. So within this ovary, there are follicles, and these follicles consist of precursor egg cells. And the precursor egg cells are surrounded by special cells to nourish and protect the precursor egg cells. Now, every female child, every female is born with follicles or potential eggs. Say about 400,000 of these eggs, women are born with them, but you know, of potential eggs, we said earlier that they are not true eggs until they are fertilized by the male sperm. And so we have about this 400,000, but of course, the women cannot, all of these 400,000 potential eggs cannot become full eggs, but only several of them will actually be released during her reproductive time. Only, you know, about 100 or more of them, several hundreds actually, could be actually released during her lifetime. So, and the release of these eggs would actually start at puberty. So after the onset of puberty, the follicle stimulating hormones would, the activities would take effect. And then due to the stimulation of these follicle stimulating hormones, one egg is released per cycle. So one matured egg is released per cycle. And the egg is released via the activities or the stimulation of the luteinizing hormone. So the follicle stimulating hormones allows the egg to mature, and then the luteinizing hormone now causes the matured egg to be released from the ovary into the abdominal cavity. And that process is called ovulation. So the process by which an egg, a matured egg, is released into the abdominal cavity is called ovulation. And that is the point where if that egg meets the sperm, then it can be fertilized and the journey of the beginning of a new life is started. And so the matured egg is released, you know, into the abdominal cavity near the opening of one of the oviducts or opening of the fallopian tube. So it's released into one of the openings of the oviduct or fallopian tube. Now, in this oviducts or fallopian tube, we have the cilia. Cilia refers to the kind of cells that enables mobility, enables movement of cells. And so at the oviduct, cilia in the oviduct now sets up currents that draw the egg into the uterus. So the cilia now, enables that egg that has been released, to move, through into the uterus. Now, the uterus has thick muscular walls and is very small. The uterus is very small, and the uterus has thick muscular walls. But even though it is small, it could expand. It's elastic, so it could expand to hold, say, a 4 kg baby. And the same luteinizing hormone that causes the egg to be released into the abdominal cavity, the same luteinizing hormone stimulates the remaining follicle cells to turn, that is, those other follicle cells that were not matured, eggs that did not mature into egg, would now turn them into corpus luteum. So the luteinizing hormone would turn the remaining follicle cells into corpus luteum, which then secretes progesterone. Progesterone, we said, is a female sex hormone, one of the female sex hormones. And so that is released through the corpus luteum. And this progesterone now thickens the lining of the uterus. The lining of the uterus is also called the endometrium. That's the endometrium. That's the wall of the uterus. It's also called the endometrium. And so the progesterone thickens the endometrium in preparation for possible implantation. So in preparation that a baby, a conception would take place. So this word is cushioned, is made ready, and it's made nutritious, it's made conducive for a new life to start. Now, if sperm is present in the oviduct during ovulation, because the couple has just had sexual intercourse, then that egg is fertilized. So once there is sperm already present in the oviduct, and this egg has been produced, this matured egg is there, then that egg becomes fertilized. And as fertilization takes place, meiosis will be quickly completed near the far end of the fallopian tube, and then the embryo will start to divide and grow as it travels to the uterus, where it is then implanted into the rich endometrium and begins to secrete its own hormones to maintain the endometrium. So once it gets fertilized, it just gradually moves, finds its way into the uterus, where it's attached to the wall of the uterus or the endometrium that has already been prepared by the progesterone produced from the corpus luteum. And so it is there until maturation. Now, if the egg was not fertilized, maybe there was no sexual intercourse and the egg was not fertilized, then it dies and disintegrates along with the corpus luteum, resulting in a substantial reduction in progesterone, because the corpus luteum that produces the progesterone. And so when the corpus luteum disintegrates, then the progesterone production reduces. And when this happens, there is a shedding of the unneeded built-up endometrium in the form of menstruation. And that is why women in their reproductive years menstruate, because the endometrium that has been built up in preparation for possible implantation of a baby did not have the baby, because the egg was not fertilized, and so the endometrium slows or dissolves and is shed. in form of menstruation. Now, we go further to look at below the uterus. You know, the bottom end of the uterus is called the cervix. This is the bottom end of the uterus. It's called the cervix. The bottom end of the uterus is called the cervix. Some people will call it the neck of the womb or the mouth of the womb, the door of the womb. It's an entrance to the uterus. So that's the end of the uterus. And the cervix secretes mucus, and the consistency of which varies with the stages in the menstrual cycle. And so, depending on whether a woman is ovulating or is not ovulating, by the time a woman is ovulating, then there's a high chance of pregnancy. By the time she's not ovulating, the chances of pregnancy is slim because egg is not present in the oviduct. And so there may not be no fertilization. And so it is those mucus from the cervix sometimes that give an idea of whether a woman could get pregnant at a particular time of the month or otherwise. So at ovulation, the cervical mucus is clear, is running, and it is conducive to the sperm. It often, appears maybe even slightly stretchy when touched by the hands. But after ovulation, or when ovulation is not taking place, the mucus gets thick and pasty to block sperm. And so it just gets thick and pasty like pap, like unprepared pap, to block sperm. So enough of this mucus is produced that it is possible for a woman to touch it with her finger, once she puts her finger to the opening of the vagina, she'll be able to obtain some and feel it. So if she does this daily, and if she combines this with the body temperature, the information she gets will be able to tell her where she is in her cycle. And oftentimes, when the temperature is lower, it tells when the temperature is lower, combined with the information she gets from the texture of the mucus, then it tells her that she may be pregnant. We said earlier, when talking about the male reproductive system, that the sperm cannot survive high temperature. And so at the point where a woman is able to conceive because of ovulation, the body's temperature slightly drops to allow the sperm enough time to survive enough to fertilize the egg. So after ovulation, the temperature becomes normal again. Now, at the point of fertilizing the egg, once a sperm fertilizes an egg, a particular kind of protein is released to seal up that egg such that no other sperm can fertilize the egg. And when an egg is already fertilized, conception has taken place, the cervical mucus forms to plug or seal off the uterus to protect the developing baby. In other words, as pregnancy is established, the cervix sort of closes up, is sealed up to protect the baby, as much as possible, so the baby does not fall out, or to protect the baby from infection and things like that. So any form of medical procedure or anything that causes this plug to be removed carries a high risk of introducing pathogens into the nearly sterile uterine environment. And so that's the end